taking from the Pathways Presentation Manual, or Presentation Mastery. Number 2, understanding your communication style. Her title is, I Am the 1%. I am the 1%, Tiffany LeBrun.
Can you take this a little bit over? Thank you. I'm going to leave that right there. I am the 1%. I am the 1%. What does that make you think of right now? It's not exactly the 1% you have in your mind right now. It's actually something quite different. My personality type makes up 1% of our population. Now, the purpose of this speech today is to define my communication style. And I'm not going to use the traditional Toastmasters pathway. I am going to use a more traditional form, which is the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI. Now, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator has been around since early 20th century. It was developed by 2 women, Catherine Cook, I'm going to say this wrong, hold on, Catherine Cook Briggs and her daughter Isabella Briggs Myers. And it's based on a Carl Jung hypothesis. They developed this framework that's actually 16 personality types based on a 4-letter code, and it's structured around 4 dichotomies. So I'm going to talk about my communication style through this framework. There's quite a few of them. This framework's actually used frequently within career building, team building, personality assessments, etc. How many of you have actually had a Myers-Briggs assessment in your lifetime, right? It's pretty popular. There are quite a few others. If you would like to take one after the speech today, you can actually take one on the internet. There's one through the Carl Jung website that's a really good, pretty good one for a free assessment. And so I'm going to go through the dichotomies and then explain to you my type and then how that helps me sort of define my communication style. So the 4 dichotomies are extroversion and introversion, which is how you gain your energy. Excuse me. So extroverts gain it from external sources. Introverts gain their energy from their internal sources. Sensing and intuition, this is how you perceive your world. So sensors tend to perceive it through a more structured format, more analytical or data format, and intuitives tend to perceive the world through a more abstract or metaphorical form. Thinkers versus feeling, or thinking versus feeling, this is how you make your conclusions. So thinkers obviously make more structured, logical conclusions. Feelers make conclusions based more on, again, more metaphorical or less analytical, more gut feel. And then finally, judging versus perceiving. Judgers tend to look at the outside world through a structure, and perceivers tend to do more, I would say, a looser interpretation of the outside world, a little bit more, we'll say, spontaneity or with more open options. So those 4 dichotomies, actually, your personality type will fall into one of each of these. So mine, after a series of tests through the evaluation, I found I am introverted, intuitive, feeling, judging. So INFJ is my personality type. And what this means is that I'm actually one of the rarer types, or the rarest type, which is 1% of the population. So I'll give you some examples of how my communication style flows through this framework. So one, being that I'm introverted and intuitive, I tend to be, if I'm having a conversation with you, I'm probably listening most of the time. And that's also because I'm really feeling what you're feeling in that conversation. I actually prefer a much deeper conversation with you than small talk. And in fact, I've been known to come off as standoffish or snobbish the first time that you meet me, probably because I'm really afraid of hurting your feelings and asking you a question like, how's your dog? And then you tell me your dog died, right? Or how was the party? And you're like, oh, my wife left last week and have the party. So in order to avoid hurting you, I ignore you instead. And that's just the irony of that whole combination there. So there's very interesting things when it comes to the I ends together and how we think. The other piece of that is they tend to be a little bit judgment, or that tend to be a little bit afraid of failing or afraid of humiliation. So when you combine that feeling with the judging, so when you have like the intuitive combined with the judging, or the feeling combined with the judging, you get your own internal dichotomy. You get your own internal battle there. So last week, one of the questions came up during table topics, and I decided to tell a story about my husband and the Chargers. Well, I almost didn't stand up because I didn't remember the name of the Chargers coach. So a great example of the judging, that's the way that I feel I should be presenting, versus what I present, which is that intuitive or that feeling. I felt like I should know all the facts, and I shouldn't get up here unless I had those facts straight. So I almost didn't raise my hand. But the reason I'm in Toastmasters is because I need to raise my hand. I need to get up because it's not perfect. It is what it is. And so that F plus J, those high expectations, cause me to hold back, and I need to work through those. And even if I don't know all the facts, get up here anyway. The next one, that N versus J, that's the use of metaphors in the way I communicate. And because I'm a software strategist, it's really important for me to use data and analytics to back up the market strategies that I'm developing. But a lot of the time I have feelings, gut, intuition around that data and analytics. So I find it really hard to communicate those. And I tend to use abstracts, and I'll get frustrated with myself because I'm not being analytical enough. But that's all right. I need to be able to allow myself to communicate, because that gut feel really is important as well. And so what I tend to do is INFJs actually are really great writers. They don't communicate as well verbally. They communicate really well in a written form. They call me the author at work, because when you ask Tiffany for a one-page strategy, she'll give you 10. Because here's the data, but here's all the stuff I think is going to happen on top of it, which is fine. I actually think that's good to be able to back that up with written. Some of your other thought to be INFJs were Gandhi, Eleanor Roosevelt, MLK. If you think about that communication style of more of that quiet, reserved, thoughtful, and also very prolific writers, those are some examples. So to wrap it up, MBTI, Myers-Briggs, does not define me. It describes me. It's not who I am. It's a framework through which I communicate. And it's not important to be perfect. The reason I'm in Toastmasters is to get up here and be the 1%. The 1% that's not perfect, but the 1% that communicates and collaborates with all of you. Thank you.